Yeah, we do a live right on your YouTube.
And we
Then how are you
are
going to edit it whenever I say something inappropriate? I mean, come on.
absolutely not.
Oh.
We're going to amplify that and
No, let's not do that. Let's not.
focus on just you when you say that. Anyway, we are
Thank you.
live.
Yeah, we
Welcome
do a live right on your YouTube.
regarding,
Oh,
and we
yeah,
Then how are you going
we're
to edit
live.
it whenever I say something inappropriate? I mean, come on. See, how are you going to edit
Absolutely
that
not. We're
right
gonna
there?
amplify that.
Uh-huh.
And
No, let's not do Alright. that. Let's not.
focus on just you when you say that. Anyway, we are
Thank you.
live.
Yeah, we do a live right on your YouTube.
Regarding,
Oh,
and
yeah,
we
Then
are
how are you going to
we're
edit
live.
it whenever I say something inappropriate? I mean, come on. See, how are you going to edit?
There it is.
I don't think it was me.
All right.
I'm not playing in the background.
Everybody, welcome to Regarding Texas Freemasonry with Brother Brad Hoff, Brother Chris Menard, Brother Tony Lyons, and none other than Right Worshipful Grand Secretary Brad Billings. How y'all doing tonight? Thanks everybody for coming in. Good.
Yeah.
Well, tonight we were going to talk to Right Worshipful Billings about just your journey into Masonry. I really wanted to ask you a question and kind of what brought you into Masonry and kind of what brought you up to this point, like quick version of that.
It's pretty simple. My great grandfather was a Mason. My grandfather and my father were not Masons. And so my great grandfather was still alive whenever I petitioned. I just wanted to carry on the family legacy. And, I was involved in a lot of stuff coming out of college. And then I was transitioning into, just full-time employment and how that was going to be. So I wanted to be involved in the community in which I lived. Masonry was one avenue to that. And little did I know it was going to have that big of an impact on my life. I kind of just joined, hey, let's see what happens. And it ended up being a profound part of my life. So,
yeah, that's great, man. First off, I really want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're a busy guy. You were just telling us like June 23rd, it just gets crazy. And man, I really appreciate you carving a little bit of block of time and away from your family and, helping us out to
just
have
this
a good
weekend
time.
worked out. My wife's out of town with her girlfriends, and my parents are in town to help me with my son. So they're taking him to bed, and just absolutely worked out. So sometimes that happens.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything y'all want to ask Brother Billings before we get started? Kind of just letting Right Worshipful talk about his duties. Chris?
I mean, I've got a ton of questions.
Oh Lord. Okay. Remember, it's only an hour, right?
Right. Yeah, no, but I mean, go ahead, proceed.
No, we each get an hour. Chris gets an hour.
Each. Okay, so it's a 3 hour. We need to get a little more beverage.
When does the family come back, Brother Billings? I mean, how much time do we have?
My son is still here, so but he's going to bed. Yeah, but then my parents are in town, so I should probably spend a little bit of time with them.
Nice,
That's
man.
awesome.
I mean, you have devoted so much to the craft. I mean, just in every way, and I think that's. I mean, it's amazing. I guess when was the last time that we, Brad and Tony, we went to last year? We went to Grand Lodge, right?
Yes.
I did not go. Brad went.
Yeah, I mean it was last year, and I mean the work that you put in, and now starting to figure out. I'm a newer Mason, I guess, out of the group. I'm the newest. I'm the youngest, newly minted Mason, and I mean, just realizing the work that you've put in, the effort and the time that it takes. Just want to say thank you. I mean, biggest thing, man.
I'm honored that I was elected by the Grand West to serve. I mean, very few people in life I feel find their passion. A lot of people have hobbies, they have things they like. Very few people find their passion. This is my passion. It's the reason I work so hard at it is because it's easy and I love it. So yeah, I just try to continue to give back and improve. And like I tell everybody, my main focus. It doesn't matter if when I was Grand Master and now that I'm Grand Secretary, whatever I'm doing in the future, my main focus is to make sure that this fraternity is here when my son, who's 5, is 18, and if he chooses to join, I'm not going to force him. I'm not going to be one of those guys like, sign this petition, we're going down to lodge. I don't feel that that is beneficial, but I want him to have the option to have the fraternity. That has meant so much to me. And I feel like if we don't start making little changes now, there's a very real possibility. I mean, look at other organizations that were bigger than us in the past that are now, on their last leg. So we have to start making, not all at once, not let's just throw everything out the window and start with something new. We have to start making smart, simple decisions, baby steps in the right direction to make sure that this fraternity is here going forward. So that's my passion. I love this fraternity. I work hard at it, but like I said, it doesn't feel like I'm working at all because it's what I love. So very fortunate to be able to do those things. So thank the Grand West, whoever's listening from the Grand West. Thank you guys for giving me that opportunity. So,
right on, man. And that's what passion's all about, right? It doesn't feel like work when you're doing it.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, there's some stuff like in any job, right? There's some stuff you'd rather not deal with. The politics, I know I get in the middle of everything just because of right now we're in a real generational shift, and there's been a real generational shift. There's been a lot of push from both sides. So I get branded as this controversial guy. I've never wanted to be the controversial guy. I've always wanted to be the guy to bring the majority of both sides, whatever we can, far right, far left, whatever. They're not going to agree.
All work together for the greater good.
Right. Who could best work and best agree? That sounds familiar, right?
Right.
That's where I try to operate.
And it's important, man. That was one of the things I was going to ask you, and I don't want to derail what Brother Hoff was going to ask or what Brother Tony was going to ask, but I mean, I see factions. I see a little bit of splintering, a little bit of division. I hate to kind of, I hate to bring that sort of thing up, but I was going to ask you, what, in your opinion, I want to bring that together.
Right.
I guess I kind of have the same, at least, desire as you do. I want to bring that together and go, look, man, all this other stuff, don't worry about it. Let's just do, let's get together and let's fix it.
I am a very idealistic person, and so yes, I absolutely want that. I'm also a realistic person, and so after last year, we won't talk about last year just because it's in the past. But this year, the trustees kind of circled up right at the beginning, and we had a similar kind of conversation. How do we do that? And I brought up the point that when you look at the way the votes happened last year, not for office, because I think you're invested in individuals in that point, right? But when you look at the legislation, it was pretty clear. It was like an 80-20 across the board. So I think that as far as legislation and the idea of should we go backwards or should we move forward, I think it's pretty clear that 80% of our fraternity with a vote, and probably even more people that are now coming up through the ranks, say, let's move forward. So at the beginning of this year, that was one of the things, we talked about. The way to get everybody on board is, look, we're going to move forward. Right? We're going to move in this direction. And if you want to come with us, please do. And if you want to sit on the sidelines and gripe about it, then you're going to get, as the Grand Master said, and I'm paraphrasing, but, trains left the station. So you want to stay at the station, stay at the station. But the train is moving in another direction. And so we're just trying to do that. Positive, stay focused, and move it in the right direction.
Amen.
Can't see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, we had, whenever I first became a Mason, so whenever I first became a Master Mason, you were the Grand Master. And I was watching you on videos on YouTube doing your speeches, like at the, was it the Anson Jones speech?
Yep.
And man, that kind of really uplifted me. I was like, wow, I never even knew that Masonry was so like involved on Facebook and on the internet and out there in the open.
Right.
But what I learned was that wasn't really normal.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was exciting for me. And then to watch you kind of do your year as the Grand Master, I had a lot of fun that year. Tony was the Worshipful Master of the Lodge. He was highly involved. You talked about traveling and getting out there and traveling and visiting other lodges. Tony was hungry and other lodges cooked meals, so we would go and eat meals at these other lodges. And
I was wondering what's going with that, like hungry, like metaphorically, but no, he's like for real.
yeah, for real hungry.
Maybe a little of both.
So I learned traveling from both of you guys, man, and I haven't really quit. And you're the previous Grand Secretary, Justin Duty,
Yeah.
was changing a lot of things and making things more streamlined as far as being able to pay dues on Grandview and all that. And then you've stepped in as Grand Secretary now. What is that like for you to kind of go into that
You
role?
covered about 8 things there. So let me back up and try to
Okay.
try to
Well, let me
remember
throw one
and
more in there real fast. Now I'm playing.
Yeah. Let me unpack what we got here. Okay, so first is Grandmaster. I knew it was not going to be a traditional year. I felt that when I was elected, the Grand West chose me in particular to go in a different direction, to try something different. We knew not everything was going to be perfect, but we had a vision and a goal to try to do stuff differently. And I'm glad that we did, and I'm glad that people enjoyed it. And just a quick note on that without recapping the year, because I felt weekend out of 53 consecutive weeks from Grand Lodge to Grand Lodge. And we just can't do it in an hour's time. The one thing I did is I wanted to showcase the diversity of Masonry. And I told everybody at the very beginning, I said, I'm going to have fun this year. I plan the year around what I like and what I think is important in Masonry. So I'm going to have fun. Y'all can have fun with me or not. I'm going to go out and have a good time. And that's what we did. And I think a lot of people joined in and had a good time. The idea of showing the diversity of Masonry for me was we have a lot of guys that join, they're looking for something, and then they quit. They didn't find it, 2 months after becoming a Master Mason, now they're gone, right? Well, you're just not looking hard enough. If you look hard enough, you can find something for you in Masonry. I guarantee it. If not, you're either very narrow-minded or a very boring person, because there's so many different things that you could do in Freemasonry. So that's what I tried to showcase, and to show a younger generation that, not necessarily younger, but in age, but younger guys that were coming in behind me, there is a lot of other things that you could do. Don't just sit in the 4 walls of your lodge and think that is Masonry. That's all it has to offer. That is one of the best parts of Masonry, is your lodge and that brotherhood that's there local with you. But there's a whole nother world out there, and you can find literally whatever you're looking for, as long as it's within our values. You can find it within Freemasonry. So that was 2022 in a very small nutshell.
Yes.
Then you brought up traveling, and traveling is something that I have been just big on for as long as I can remember. In fact, I was trying to think back to when I started traveling, and it was really when I got involved with Texas Lodge Research, a statewide lodge. I was also very active in York Rite, so chapter council commandery, Scottish Rite. All those things kind of took me out and around the state. So starting about 2015, I started traveling extensively. 2017, I was district deputy. And so 2015, I was Grand Junior Steward, traveled extensively. 2017, district deputy, traveled extensively. 2018, I was making myself available. And then January 2019, you guys elected me. Well, not necessarily you guys, but the Grand West. So, and then I never stopped, because I think travel is, A, it's fun. B, you meet people, and you meet great people within our fraternity. And then, the way that I utilize that right now, the way I utilize that as I was coming up as a trustee and through my time as Grand Master, is you meet people that have hey, I can help you with this, or I can do that. So I wanted to put out there that's why I travel. I love to meet brothers. I just love the interaction. I love the experience of going to a new lodge, or, going to a lodge where I feel comfortable. But I also want to tell people, if you're watching this podcast, if you have something that you are particularly good at, reach out to me. We're always looking for people to help with different stuff. Social media is an area where we could use a ton of help as a fraternity. If you're good at digital, marketing, or putting together, whatever. So you'll see, and you see it, I think, in the newsletter and other places. I try to pull people in. To me, the greatest strength of our fraternity is the people in it. Our teachings are great, of course, and that's why it stood the test of time. But to me, the where I want to focus the majority of my time is bringing these guys with all these great strengths together to accomplish a goal way more than I could individually, or the Grand Lodge could individually. So if you've got those skill sets, if you've got something that you're in particularly good at, reach out to me. Find me on Facebook, find me on Instagram, send me an email. I think everybody has my contact information in the state. Some days I feel that way. So reach out to me, and let's try to make things better. So that's really traveling. It's the experience, it's the people you meet, and then it's the job that we can do collectively versus one or two people trying to make everything happen themselves, which I feel like for a while it was the same guys trying to put together the same stuff, and that's why we ended up with the same iteration of Masonry over and over and over again. So I try to keep things fun and fresh and interesting. And then the final thing you said is Justin Duty. And man, I can't give that guy enough credit. I try every time that we have some sort of a podcast, a platform, whatever, to talk about Justin. He was really thrown into it. He in fact, I made a list because I was just double checking. Yeah, I am the 14th Grand Secretary of the Grand Lodge of Texas. 14th. We've been around for 188 years.
That's not many. Yeah.
That's not many at all, right? Like, I was just like, it blew my mind when Justin told me, like, yeah, I was the 13th Grand Secretary. I was like, no way, bro.
That can't be right.
Wow.
Now, I want to remind everybody, if you're watching, we've had
Mason trivia right there.
Yeah, we've had 6 Grand Secretaries since Tommy Guest. So Tommy Guest, then we had Orville O'Neill, and he took it for 4 or 5 years. And we had Tommy Ellison, who had to duck out because of health issues, but he was there for a hot second. Alan Laser, who was elected, so we count him. We don't count Tommy because he was appointed, not elected. Alan was elected, and then like 3 or 4 months later, had health issues, had to back out. Then we had Justin, who was kind of thrown into this thing, and then myself. So yeah, 14 total, and there's 5 right there within the span of less than a decade. So anyways, we'll talk more about that in a minute, but Justin came into all that chaos, and people forget that there was all that chaos, and he stabilized the office, and then he started to improve and started to move forward. So you can't give the guy enough credit. But last year, when I was making myself available, I ran very, very heavily on the fact that, look, I want to continue doing what Justin was doing. I agree with everything he was doing. We maybe like some very, very minor discrepancies, but lockstep pretty much all the way across the board. I wanted to continue that vision and that mission. And you'll see coming out at Grand Lodge, we're going to have 1 or 2, I can't remember, 1 or 2 resolutions that we're going to present jointly, because it was stuff he was finishing up. It's stuff I'm supporting to make sure that vision continues to move forward. And it's all about the simple things, instead of keeping things on a spreadsheet, let's maybe put them into a database, where we could have access to them from anywhere. And if one person dies, that spreadsheet that was on their computer, that's password like that, we can't get to it, right? So it's really, really simple business stuff, but it's stuff that was not in place because we had a couple of old school Grand Secretaries, and then we had a couple of quick secretaries, and then Justin was the guy to finally say, that doesn't make any sense. We've got to move forward. So
yeah,
hopefully I covered all those topics.
Yeah.
Amen with every answer. Dang it. Being a tech guy, amen to all that.
And we're still coming along with that. And I want to throw out another shout out to Craig Enderley. That man, Good Lord. No one knows. I don't even know. And I was the guy asking him to do 95% of the stuff, especially in 22. But if Craig were suddenly hit by a bus, this fraternity would come to a screeching halt. But he does that much for us. We need to work on building up a group to support him because he gets overwhelmed at times. But God bless him, man. He is just a constant workhorse for this fraternity, and he doesn't
Yeah.
get the credit he deserves. So I like to throw his
Yeah.
name out there and give him recognition whenever and however I can. So
Yeah.
Right on.
yep.
Yeah. I really like what you said about the if you're not finding like your flavor of masonry, just go look. You're not looking hard enough, like because it's out there, and that's what I learned.
I
And that
mean, yeah, no, within the fraternity, certainly we've got that. Everything from, man, Texas Lodge Research and some of my more nerdy friends in that, that are very technical on writing. And we got friends that are technical in statistics, and they can dive down deep into stuff. So we've got everything from that to the guy that just wants to be a social guy who maybe joins Masonry and joins the shrine or the grotto, and like he does his lodge stuff and he does that stuff. We've got everything in between. I mean, there's literally nothing that you can do, that's upright and upstanding that doesn't fall within this crazy umbrella that we have as a fraternity. So if you
yeah,
didn't find what you were looking for, you didn't look hard enough.
that's
And if
right.
you're in the fraternity, if you're on the sidelines, if you're at home right now listening to a podcast, but you don't really go to lodge, then I understand not going to. Sometimes they're boring state meetings. That might not be what you want to do, but find something where you feel plugged in, and always stay in the Blue Lodge. You have to. That's the way this fraternity works. But stay there, and then go find what you love if you're not getting in your Blue Lodge. So I come from a Scottish Rite, basically lodge, because we met at the Scottish Rite. So 2 days after being raised, I was 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason. Then I quickly joined the York Rite, and then I joined the Shrine some years later, and now I'm in all these different dependent bodies. But I do have one lodge that I belong to that's very anti anything outside of Blue Lodge. There, and that's the way my original mentor was. He was Blue Lodge only. And so I know the question is probably going to come up, so I'm just going to go right into it. I think that the appendant body stuff is great. If you find what you love in the shrine, I'm okay with that, because you know what? You're still in your Blue Lodge, right? You might just be a dues paying member or card carrying member, but you're still a Mason. And I think that's important, because you might go spend 20 years in the shrine and you might decide, you know what? I need to give Masonry another chance. And you come back to it, right? But I tell people, if someone joins your lodge and they immediately run off and go somewhere else and find something that they love, you may need to look at your lodge. It could be them, and in a lot of cases it's the person, right? They're looking for the new shiny thing or whatever. It's kind of the way that the younger generations operate. But it
Yeah,
very well may be that your lodge isn't offering something that they find valuable. And so, I think it's incumbent on both sides, both the person that's looking and seeking and the lodge that is giving, to find that happy medium. And as a lodge, the more things you can give, the more experiences you can give, social aspects, having a
Create that
barbecue,
culture
having a
that you
night
want to
out.
be there.
Yeah, of course. And there are lodges where the members will not miss. I mean, I belong to Crawford 585 in Crawford, Texas, and man, they've got a fish fry, they've got a Thanksgiving dinner. Like, it's not all food; they do programs as well. But every time they meet, they're doing something that makes it to where, like, if you miss a meeting, I mean, what did I miss this time? And then you see the pictures, and you're like, why didn't I go to that? Right. So I think we as lodges, we as leaders in different aspects of Masonry, we need to have that in mind. Like, we need to have an event that if people are not at, they're going to kick themselves for not being there. And guess
That'll
what?
be
Next month,
contagious.
absolutely, FOMO, right? That's
yeah,
the coin
FOMO.
phrase: fear of missing out. You create fear of missing out within your lodge, and people are going to show up. Even if just hey, what crazy thing are they doing this week or this month? So
Yeah.
fun stuff to consider.
So I really like hearing you talk because, like, you just say good things. So I want to keep that train rolling.
All right.
And I wanted to talk about what it's like stepping into the Grand Secretary's position and what it's like what the things that you did to kind of, I've heard you talk at Tannehill Lodge down at the Scottish Rite building down there, and you talked about cleaning up the stacks of stuff in the office and kind of making it your own, and what kind of things you're working on like today as far as projects.
So again, that's like a
Like
multifaceted question. Yeah,
three or
we're
four
gonna
things. Yeah.
break into that. So like
So just
stepping
keep
into
you
that
talking.
role is unlike anything else. You step in as Grand Master. Well, you've had 3 years to prepare and kind of develop a plan, but also the Grand Master can go in this direction one year. Next year we can go in this direction. Next year we can go in that direction, and it's okay because it's 1 year, right? But Grand Secretary is like it is a very specific thing. So no one can understand what it's like to step into that position until you step into that position. And it's an immediate tidal wave because it happened at Grand Lodge, obviously contested election. So, we don't know who it's going to be, or else you could plan better. So there's several things that you got to think about. There's the just the initial wave of stuff that comes at you, the requests and everything else. It's just almost nonstop. Not to mention you have a trustees meeting literally Sunday the next morning, and you're the guy recording, taking notes, doing all the stuff that you have never done before because again, unless you're the incumbent Grand Secretary. So there was that initial wave. And I remember Justin, when he was going through it, I think I was Grand Senior Warden. And fun fact, some people know it, some people don't. He was going to be my Grand Marshal. So whenever he went to be Grand Secretary, it's like, you gotta be kidding me. We're 2 years into this thing. And so he and I were very close then, we're very close now. And we would talk constantly. And so I had a little bit of an idea of, kind of the questions he got asked and the challenges that he faced, because he'd call me and say, hey, who knows this, or who knows how to do that, or who do we have that can do this? And, sometimes I had the answer for him, again, because I travel around and I meet these guys. And I'd had more travel experience than him at that point. And so I was able to point him in the right direction. So I had a little bit of an idea doing that and having been Grand Master, but there's still just no way to really understand. So then we had like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, the office manager at the time, I use air quotes because we don't have an office manager now. The office manager decided to take another opportunity. It was the right move for him and his family. He went to another Masonic institution. He's doing great. So you can't fault him for leaving. But as the new guy, you're like, man, what do I do, right? Because remember, all those secretaries had vacated. It was back and forth. So institutional knowledge at the Grand Lodge is at a low point, and now our office manager is leaving. So luckily, because I knew people and I know skill sets, I was able to pull in Dave McCam. We call him Do It All Dave. And if you've called the Grand Lodge, you've probably talked to Dave because he's jack of all trades. He knows how to get everything done. He is a can-do attitude kind of guy. If you say, hey, we got this issue, he's not going to say, oh, no, we don't do that here. He's going to try to genuinely help you because that's just his nature. So we call him Do It All Dave. And I was so fortunate. He was somebody I knew, I trusted. He lives like 7 miles from the Grand Lodge. I was like, can you come help me? And I thought at that point it'd be kind of a temporary thing. Luckily for me, and I think he enjoys it as well, he transitioned almost immediately into full time because we needed it. And then we had another guy that didn't come back after Grand Lodge. He was a part-time guy. So I was able to bring in Jeff Frazier. And Jeff Frazier has taken our out-of-state affiliations. That was, I hear horror stories of 3 years. I don't believe it, but I've certainly seen cases where it was over a year to affiliate from another Grand Lodge or another jurisdiction. Jeff is turning these things out in 2 or 3 days. I mean, he is just absolutely phenomenal.
He was my my King Solomon.
Oh, very, very cool. Yeah. He does that with the Knights of Mecca. He's multi-talented. He can do degree work, obviously. I think he's a district instructor out that way as well. But But I mean, he's doing dispensations for us. So if you ask for a dispensation, we just had that Hurricane Beryl blow through and all the chaos, right in the middle of installation season. So we had chaos in Houston. He was on top of it. Him and the Grand Master working together, getting dispensations turned around literally in sometimes within hours of receiving it. We had a dispensation back out to the lodge. So he deserves a lot of credit. Grandmaster deserves a lot of credit. But we're doing great things in the office. Again, I think a lot of that comes from the traveling and the meeting the people and just having a knack for, hey, who can help out with this? And really Jeff started like kind of, we'd farm some stuff out to him. Hey, can you help with this project? Can you help with that project? And it was always just, man, he was just right on it. So he retired from his job, I think in January, and I gave him like a week off. And then I was like, hey, we need help. So we brought him in and we keep giving him more and more stuff. Now I think he works between 15 and 20 hours a week. He works remotely, so you won't see him in the office, which is a model that I think makes sense. We can't have everybody work remotely, but we got to have a few people that are really sharp to help us out with stuff like that, where you could do it remotely, and he's doing a fantastic job. So yeah, I don't remember the other 3 points of your question, but that was one that I definitely wanted to talk about, the staff, because and I didn't ask the staff that had been there and had been in place if I could talk about them on the podcast. So I don't feel comfortable doing that, but I did ask Dave and Jeff, since they're newer and new additions. And that really is a main difference. A lot of people, when they think of Grand Secretary, they think of their secretary, right? And their secretary does, Tony, everything behind the scenes, right? Like, so luckily, a major difference between the secretary and the Grand Secretary is I have a staff. And my goal for that staff is to keep everything in the office running on time. Of course, every now and then Grandview throws us a curveball, like they've thrown us a couple this year. Every now and then something pops up, an emergency or something like that. But the way I view it is the staff keeps the train on the tracks, which allows me to do all the other stuff, the newsletter, to come up with creative stuff to put in there, the social media stuff that we are now putting together to give Grand Lodge a real presence online, all that type of stuff. I'm freed up to do that kind of stuff because I don't have to do the day-to-day stuff that they really do take care of, and they do a great job at that. So that is one thing, thankful major difference between secretaries and Grand Secretary. So
sounds like I need some staff either way.
I mean,
Tony, staff for you, man.
One of the things we're going to be pushing, and I hope you'll join us for a secretary summit and a secretary school, which I want to talk about before our time is up. But one of the things we're going to push is we have a lot of older secretaries. I'm not saying that is you, Tony, at all.
But seasoned.
But
okay.
Hey, no. I'm talking about our guys. I'm talking about our guys that are, up there in age and not really great with technology. So we have created, it already existed. We're just really going to push it. Lodge admin. And so you can call it assistant secretary, but if they're in another officer position, it's probably better to call it office admin or lodge admin. And that person will be a second person that has identical access as the secretary, and they can go in and assist with some of this stuff. And this is really important, I think, for lodges that have that older secretary that's good as gold. He's been keeping the minutes for 10 plus years. And you don't want to push him out, but you really need some help with the technology side of it. This opens that avenue. And, people will say, oh, well, that person can get in there and change a bunch of stuff. But we can see every change that is made. We can undo every change. There is, very, very little risk of somebody doing something like that besides we're all Masons. So the upside, though, has so much potential, even if it's just, this guy's overwhelmed doing all the secretary stuff, because it's a lot of work to have someone have someone that you can call up and say, hey, can you do this for me? And just take that off of them.
When I visited lodges in California, they actually had that. I want to say it was assistant secretary.
Like an actual position, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And same thing for the treasurer.
That's cool.
But it was basically the assistant was, like you said, the one going out.
Right.
And just kind of there to help out and mentor, if you will.
And that, it's going to be up to the lodges how they use it. I mean, you get two guys, right, that have that kind of access. Because when I first started talking about this with the team, they're like, "Oh, you know what? That'd be great because then when someone's leaving, they can train the new guy." And I was like, "Yes, that is absolutely a model that you guys can use." However, another model would be to have this guy over here that's Mr. Technology that just that's what he's good at. He runs that part of it, and then the secretary, it makes his job easier. So when he wants to leave and somebody wants to come in, he has an easier job because he doesn't have to do both sides of it. And he's got somebody that can also kind of, again, mentor him on the other side. So, however, the lodges want to use it, I just think it makes a lot of sense. And some lodges, the secretary is very, technology driven and say, I don't need that. No harm, no foul, good for you and good for your lodge. So just stuff like that to me makes all the sense in the world. Those are the kind of things that we are going to be pushing because we need to get better as a fraternity at technology, and I don't think anybody will disagree with that. So
Right. Is there anything that
yes, that's the fist bump.
is there anything that the secretary's staff and office doesn't do?
Oh, yes. Thank you for that softball. I think I know where you're going with that. We don't answer legal questions. That's something new. And it was a change. A lot of people would call the office and ask for a jurisprudence opinion. We have people in the office who are non-Masons who are answering those questions. They're literally looking at a law book. There's no way that we could get the right answer 100% of the time. There's no way with a great deal of certainty that we could get the right answer 90% of the time, right? So we're talking about wrong answers going out. And at the very, very least, even if we gave you the right answer, it's not official. So you could say the grand secretary said this. Who cares? I have no authority. Like, I can't, tell you what the law is. The grand master is the only one that could do that. And he's going to confer with jurisprudence, right? The jurisprudence committee. District deputies can give you an official answer. Jurisprudence, Masonic jurisprudence can give you official answers. The grand master can give you official answer. I can't, my office staff can't. So it was really a silly exercise. And again, I wasn't certain that we were putting out good information. So the idea is now, again, if y'all are watching this and you're wondering, okay, well, what do we do now? The process is go to your district deputy. That's what he's there for. He's not there to, come in and just check the records and make sure you're doing everything right and tell you what you should be doing and then leave. I mean, he's supposed to be a resource for the lodge. He's a district officer. And so go to him. One, that informs your district deputy of what's going on, right? You wouldn't believe how many times they would call our office and then I would call the district deputy. I had no idea what was going on in their own district. And I know if I was district deputy, I wouldn't appreciate that, right? Like I would want to know, give me the opportunity to fix it. If I don't know, I will run it up the chain, which is what they do now. So it goes to the district deputy. If the district deputy doesn't know the answer, or if it's not, very obvious in the law book, then what he'll do is he'll kick it up the chain. And then if those guys can't figure it out, this year we have Raul, Billy Ray, Casey Maxwell, and I'm leaving someone else out. I'll come back to it. Anyway, they have their chain of command, and if they can't answer it, then it goes to the Grand Master. And usually when the Grand Master gets it, it's pretty puzzling, right? It wouldn't go all the way up if that weren't the case. So then he kicks it over to jurisprudence and or civil law if it's more of a civil law, like something to do with actual outside of Masonry law. It goes to civil law. If it's Masonic law, it goes within jurisprudence. And he'll get some guidance there, and then he'll come back. And sometimes it goes all the way up to a decision, which is what we just saw, because the law's unclear. And so at that point, the Grand Master will make a decision. So it really is a good, we have a good chain of command to follow. Grand Secretary's office is nowhere in that for legal matters. So
yeah,
thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so I just learned this evening as I was I reached out to you and I was asking for like some kind of script for installation for MWSA, and I had put a post on Facebook, and then my district communications officer says, "Hey, I saw your post. I don't know, but I can look around and I'll ask somebody. Did you ask so and so?" And so that's a good resource as
Absolutely.
well as
Yeah.
your communications officer. So
DCOs, DEOs. I mean, use these guys. Your DIs. Like, I don't know why everybody's afraid of the DIs. I know most of the DIs. They're great guys. They want to help your lodge learn the ritual. They would be ecstatic if you called them and said, "Could you please come to our lodge and just work? Do a mini forum or something. Just show us some stuff. Make sure we're doing things right." They would love to do that. But they never get asked. They're looked at as these guys come and grade us every now and then when a grandmaster wants them to. And so but they're great guys. They're Masons just like you and me. They just love the ritual work. And I've had an A certificate for, I don't know, over 10 years now. And I love the ritual work too. So I get along well with them. But they're not going to come in, and if you miss a few words, just like, oh my God, I'm taking the charter off the wall. Like, that's not how this works. So, utilize
master's head.
I mean, come on, just utilize your district deputies and it's use your district service team, I guess is what I'm saying. But it's sad because the DIs, really the lodges that need the most help, I guess they're afraid that they don't know the work, so they're like the ones that never reach out. And it's like, just invite them in. They're not going to bite your head off. They want you to get better, because that is their passion in Masonry, is the work. So anyway, utilize those guys.
Well, the last thing I really wanted to talk about was you got the Grand Secretary's or the Secretary School coming up.
Right.
And we just kind of finished our time just talking about that and any other little projects you have that you want to mention, and we can wrap it up,
I've got
have
a
a
few
Friday evening.
I'd like to throw at you.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
I don't answer secretary questions. No, I'm just joking.
No, I'm actually backtracking a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that'll be good. So the schools, the one thing that we started, and again, this is brand new, and I was basically following the model that Justin had done, which was the schools were more in the fall. We're gonna kind of shift that, and we're gonna try to make the schools to mirror the OLTs, where they go more year round. We gotta get better at staying off weekends, because there were a lot of conflicts this year, and I think that's the first time that they did the year round OLT. So I think that will get better with time. We'll carve that out. But we're looking at a lot of guys that were emailing us, calling us right before installation, like, I'm a new secretary, I have no idea what I'm doing, help. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have secretary schools in the fall, so we're gonna fix that. But again, following the old model until something new presents itself. But we have worked hard to change it from just secretary schools to a secretary system of information. And the reason that we are pushing this system of education is because not everybody can make the schools. The schools are great, and when we have them, I feel like I always learn something. Even the guys that have been in the room that have been secretary for like 20 years, like, I didn't know that. So if we can get those guys to learn one thing, take away one nugget, we're doing the right things. But I'm from West Texas, and I'm from small town West Texas, Seagraves. If you want to look it up on a map, if you could find it, those guys out in West Texas don't have the 6 hours to drive to Dallas, or just, I think it's like 8 hours to Houston, or maybe 7 hours to Waco, whatever it is. The drive time, you got to spend a night in a hotel, you got to drive back, that's an enormous amount of capital. And none of the lodges, for whatever reason, none of the lodges pay for their secretary to go to stuff. A lot of lodges pay for officers to go to OLT, but they don't pay money to their secretaries or give them a stipend to come to a secretary school. I wish more lodges would do that. If you're worshipful master of your lodge, Brad, looking right at you, maybe you want to give a stipend to your secretary to come to these schools, because it does take gas, time, effort, and they're doing it for the betterment of your lodge. If we're going to pay for officers to go to OLT, I think we need to ask our lodges to, hey, give a stipend, even if it's a couple $100, just $100, a couple $100, whatever. It would mean a lot, I think, to the secretaries. They're not going to ask you for it because they're just great people. They're giving the lodge everything they got, but you should just give it to them because they deserve it. So we're going to have the schools. Those are going to be different. We're going to focus on some things that have not been taught in schools before. Of course, we're going to have all the admin stuff, all the regular stuff. We're going to have some leadership training. The average time for a secretary in office is 7 years. Usually the longest serving officer of any lodge is the secretary. So being in that role, you're going to see conflict. You're going to see things that pop up in the lodge. You need to have some training on how to handle these things, bring the two sides together, as we were talking about earlier. So there's going to be some leadership training. There's going to be some social time. I know you guys don't believe that coming from me, but the questions don't pop up 8:30 to 4 Monday through Friday. They pop up on Saturday, or they pop up on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, or Thursday before the stated meeting. So we're gonna have some social time that's built in to bring these secretaries together, to get them talking to each other, have some fun with each other, and once they get to know each other, then they can use that network, which I think is always invaluable, but in particular with the secretary group. So we're going to be doing some different things to really kind of make it. If you've been to a secretary school before, come to this one, because it's going to be different. And we're starting it off before we do all that with the Secretary Summit. That is basically what we're doing right now, but with secretaries that want to jump on. And we hope all secretaries, if you're listening, we hope all secretaries will jump on. There's 2 different times, August 1st and August 6th, and we posted that. If you need the information, hit me up or call the office. We'll get it to you. But the idea is, we're going to tell you a few things that are burning hot right now that we need to talk about as the office, and then we're going to sit back and listen. What do you guys want to learn? Like, what do we need to build trainings around? What do we need to build resources around? What do we need to teach you in the secretary school? Because we still have time to build it out. So we want to hear from the guys that are actually doing the job. What do you need? And so that's going to be a big chunk of these summits, is you tell us how to help you, because that is our mentality. Again, we want to help you accomplish, as long as it's within the purview of the law and all the Masonic rules, we want to help you get there. So,
do you have to be a secretary?
No, you don't. No, you don't. And there will be a third component to that, but we're going to save that, because I don't like to talk about stuff before we do stuff. I want to do it and then talk about it. So there will be a third component to that education system, which I think will make it much more vibrant and useful going forward. So,
yeah, and you guys also have like a Worshipful Master mentoring program too going on right now that I enrolled in.
Excellent. That is the education committee came to the trustees, April, I guess it was, and said, "Hey, we got this idea. We want to do it." We talked about expenses. We talked about how to make it happen, and they had a very solid plan. And so we pushed it forward. In fact, we worked a lot with the education committee this year. We had, I think, 2 of their guys from the committee went to a education forum in Iowa or somewhere Midwest, and they came to us and said, "Hey, we want to go to this. Will the Grand Lodge pay for it?" So we figured out a way to make it happen, right?
That's awesome.
Again, a lot of things are moving forward. I feel like there was the division at Grand Lodge that we all acknowledge and talked about. We didn't know which way it was going to go, but as soon as we figured out which way we were moving, we've been pushing in that area. Now, again, you got the massive wave of everything new coming in that you got to overcome, but we're just now starting to get that momentum and start to push it the way that we feel that the Grand Lodge voted to push it. So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
When I saw you at the Sam P. Cochran installation, you mentioned something with a insurance thing that you guys were working on for lodge insurance.
Correct. And this, I don't know how far out this is, so I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. But
okay.
One of the, just real quick overview, philosophical view of Grand Secretary, and then philosophical view of Grand Lodge, which culminated in working on this project, which we're currently working on. Overview of Grand Secretary. The staff takes care of the day-to-day. Grand Secretary works on the more long-term thoughts, basically looking out for the future of Grand Lodge, right? Because you got the Grand Master coming in. Look, I did it, and I was this guy. You got the blinders on, right? Like, okay, I want to focus on this year as Grand Master. But you're not necessarily thinking about the problem that's 5 years down the road, because you're already going to be in and out. The secretary is usually think about your lodge, right? Your lodge, I looked it up. Average of 7 years for that guy. He becomes the point of stability. So that's the way I view Grand Secretary and what he should be doing, not checking every form and making sure everything is done correctly. Again, that's the office staff. But his job is to look out for major problems that are down the road and try to find solutions. So that's Grand Secretary, in my opinion. And what I ran on when I made myself available. On the other side is Grand Lodge. Grand Lodge is, a collection of lodges, obviously, or the founding entity of several lodges. But really and truthfully, where our strength would be as a Grand Lodge, in my opinion, is economies of scale. And the things that we could do if we just got everybody on the same page. And I don't mean everybody, because again, I'm a realist. So, okay, yeah. If we got 500 lodges on board for any project, we could get a lot of stuff done, right? And that's not, that's what, that's 2/3. We can get 2/3 of the Masons and the lodges on board. We can pretty much accomplish whatever we want to accomplish. So insurance came up. And the way that this hits my office is we get a lot of calls. We get a lot of emails. Man, what do we do for insurance? Like, I can't insure this building. Insurance has gone through the roof. It's gone up 10 times from what it was 3 or 4 years ago. So back in the day, there was a Grand Lodge. This is as I understand it, so take it as it is. There was an insurance policy, but it was every lodge in the state, whole state blanket. So we had guys in Lubbock that were paying the same rate as guys in Galveston. They're paying for the hurricane that they're never going to get in Lubbock because all the water's underground. Rains very infrequently. So what we're trying to do now is the same model, so we get the economies of scale, but to break it up into regions, right? Like we've got the coastal region, we've got the West Texas Plains region, to break it up into regions, so we still have this big piece of 500, 600 lodges, so everybody gets a lower cost. But it's broken up by region, so you don't have a lodge, over here paying for, all the things that happen in this part of the state. We think it's a smarter plan. I don't know if it's going to work, but that's one of those things that, because I have such a great office staff, I'm able to spend time looking into these things, which I really and truthfully think will help the lodges. And that's always the goal, is to try to, find what you guys need.
Man, you are a well-oiled machine, brother.
Just been doing it for a while. So
yeah, man.
There are so many opportunities like that. In fact, I'm put forth a resolution to bring more economies of scale, to help those smaller lodges invest their money with a big pool of money, so that everybody gets the benefit, right? And so y'all will see that coming out whenever the resolutions come out. But those are the kind of things that I try to think about, because again, I'm from a small town in West Texas, and that's really where a lot of my mindset comes from, is how do we help the smaller lodges, the more rural lodges, because I think the urban lodges, they have their own challenges, absolutely, but they get more attention. So I try to look at everything through the lens of urban and rural. So,
yes,
yep. And y'all are kind of on the bubble. I mean, you can't say small town where y'all are at, because good Lord,
it's like it's bubbling. Yeah,
it is bubbling. Try to cross that bridge. Try to cross that bridge on any given day. It's bubbling.
Yeah, definitely.
Tony, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier. Did you have something you wanted to ask?
Oh, Tony, go ahead.
So, kind of backtracking a little bit, maybe even before you made yourself available, I wanted to kind of know, what does a brother need to do, or what's he expect, or what should he prepare to make himself available to get involved, to go that direction? What does a brother need to do to start heading that direction, or say, hey, how do I get involved with Grand Lodge? From the seat I'm in to get to where you are. what's kind of that look like, I guess?
Yeah. Well, first, answer me this question: is that a SpongeBob pineapple in your fish tank behind you there?
It is.
Rock on. Okay. All right. I just I had to make sure. I mean, I can barely see it out of the corner of my eye here, but there it is. All right. Very nice. Very nice. All right. I think there are multiple avenues to getting to where you want to be. I think the main, I guess, I don't know what I want to call it, myth or whatever, is to go from one point to another point. It just kind of happens overnight. Uh, any kind of success, it's the iceberg in the water, and I'm sure you've all seen it. It's like you see the tip, and that's success, but it's all the stuff underneath. The majority is underneath that you'll never see, you'll never know. So if I tell people, if you're interested, one, it's got to be a passion, right? Like if it's not a passion, then you can be very involved in masonry. You can have your little kingdom in masonry, your little portion that you love. But I really feel like if you're going to run for statewide office, it really has to be a passion of yours, or else the rewards are never worth it, right? In masonry, we were talking about this the other day. You get a medal made out of pot metal, or you get a hat, or it's never about that, right? It's nice when you receive it, but it's never why you do it, or it shouldn't be why you do it. So I tell people, if you want to be successful, it's a very, very simple answer. First, you got to show up. If you're not present, nothing happens, right? Nothing's going to happen. So
true,
if you
so true.
Yeah. So if you want to be worshipful master of your lodge, you've got to show up, and not just the stated meetings, right? You got to show up to called meetings. You got to show up to study club, whatever your lodge does. You want to be worshipful master of that lodge, you got to start and you got to show up and be a part of it. That is so simple, but it's really like 80% of the equation, right? Just show up and be a part of it, and be agreeable and have fun, and give people a hard time, but do it in jest, and expect it back from them, right? That's okay. The other 20% of the success, I think, is if you're given a task, do it. Look, you can always say no. If someone says, hey, I need you to do this, no thank you, right? Or I can't, sorry, I got this going on. Or hey, I'd like for you to cook a meal for lodge, sorry, I can't, I don't have a kitchen for it, whatever, can't make it happen. Okay, nobody's going to fault you. But if you say, I will do it, I'm looking at everybody on this podcast. If you're listening to this, if you say you're going to do it, do it. And do it to the absolute best of your ability. Even if it's something small and minuscule, and you're like, this is dumb. If you're going to do it and you say you're going to do it and do it to the best of your ability. And if you do that, you will see, and this is the Jeff Frazier model here in the office. I gave him a task. It was a small task. Knocked it out. Great work. Gave him a little bit more, did more, and now he is an integral part of the office, right? Like you make yourself invaluable when you do those things. But what we see a lot of people doing, especially the younger guys, the newer guys, hey, can you do this? Oh yeah, and then they show up to lodge. Oh, I didn't bring my law reading, right? I didn't bring an educational point. It's like, if you say you're going to do it, please do it, because somebody is banking on you doing that. And if you're not going to do it, then just tell us and we'll make other plans. So really, that's an oversimplified version. I think that with travel, because as you travel, you're meeting people across the state. And if you want a statewide office, again, I think that's part of being there, right? If you want to be worshipful master of your lodge, show up to your lodge. If you want to be a statewide officer, show up to statewide events. We have a lot of them. There's almost one every weekend, I'm going to some weird double cornerstone tomorrow morning. I don't know where that's at, but anyway, that'll be, that'll be literally right in y'all's neighborhood. So, if you're going to do statewide stuff, go to the statewide events. And I think that it's really as simple as that. And before you know it, you'll be district deputy or DEO or DCO. If you're good with the work, you'll be a DI. It's as simple as that. Show up and do good work.
Right. I did have one question from the live chat. The 2024 Grand Lodge Law Book is available in Grandview. When will the hard copy be available?
Say that again. I didn't hear the first word.
The 2024 Grand Lodge Law Book is available in Grandview.
Yes.
But when will the hard copy be available?
Okay, so we just finalized that. I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere in there. I think it was Wednesday. We finalized it, and it was put out Wednesday night, but it might not have got pushed out till Thursday because it's a big file. So at the same time when we did that, we sent it to the printers. So the answer is however long it takes the printer to print them.
Right.
But I will tell you, it's going to be a little bit of a delay there. So for whoever asked the question, because the first thing we do is we print the 160 copies, 170 copies, whatever it is, for the district deputies for the next year, because they typically have training in August. So that is the first wave, and then after that, we get them for the office. So I would expect maybe middle to the end of August, and trust me, our office, we are, there's still some things we're improving on. Communication is not one of them. If we have something we need to put out there, we're going to put it out there. We're going to ask people to post it on social media. We're going to try to put it everywhere we can so that you have to be living under a rock to not know that it's come out. So,
yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Brothers, we're right on the hour.
I got two things. I got two
Okay.
things. They're going to be quick.
Well, it's fine, guys. My son's asleep. My wife is out of town. So
it depends.
We don't have 3 hours. We don't have 3 hours, but we still got some time.
It depends on Brother Brad how quick this goes. First
Well,
thing
that's going to be a long answer.
Man, I love your passion. I love the way that you embrace technology and what it can do. I think it's long overdue. Being an IT guy, and I think that it's here. You're not going to get rid of it, but
it's not going anywhere.
No, I don't think it is. But what I did want to ask you is, what is the funniest thing that you can tell has happened in Lodge? Go.
Oh man, all the good stuff I can't tell. That's what makes it good. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly,
what about that installation? Whenever
that
you
was
did.
Pretty okay. So I'll go with that, just because all the stuff that I think about is stuff that not necessarily inappropriate, just probably not best to put out there. But we were recently at an installation, and the brother in the middle of the installation got a haircut. I'm going to leave that one open to interpretation. Ask me at some future point. But then his apron just randomly fell down to his knees, and so he's newly installed master, does the whole deal with the haircut, which was really a cool moment. But then the apron just, boom, falls to the ground. And I swear, not 5 minutes later, Brad, his jewel pops off. Like the jewel just disintegrated. So I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like it was quite comical. Literally everybody there thought it was staged. We're like, there's no way all these things happen. But so fun stuff like that happens all the time. Like if you're not having fun in Masonry, you need to find another lodge, or you need to go somewhere where there is fun, because I promise you it's out there, particularly with the guys that are coming up, the guys that are not necessarily ingrained in Masonry, but the newer guys are bringing a bunch of energy and excitement. And so those type of things happen almost daily. So
yeah, it's great.
That's awesome, man. Thank you, brother. That's
absolutely
what I needed.
You said you had two and you only threw one out.
Well, no, I was just saying two things is what I meant. Oh. And the first part of it was really just your passion, and just how you were embracing what's coming and what's here.
I meant to talk about that too. So just real quick, I am a millennial. I'm of the older millennials. They call us two things: either zillennial, I guess because we're like Gen X millennial, or geriatric millennial, which is my favorite term. I love that one. Never been called geriatric in my life. So geriatric millennial. But I also have another title, which I go back and forth with the guy in Southeast Texas as the worst millennial, because I'm not great with technology. But I think what you're seeing is it's kind of a interesting dichotomy, because I'm not the best with technology. In fact, I still have an iPhone 8. I actually ordered an iPhone 14 today, and I'm very apprehensive about that. But I'm at a good spot. It's kind of like where I'm at in life. I'm not too young that I can identify with older guys, but I'm also not so old that I can't identify with the young guys. In technology, I'm the same way. I understand the frustrations with technology. I 100% do, because I'm not a super tech kind of guy. But I also understand, it's like you said, it's not going anywhere. It's something that we have to have. So let's figure out a way to do it more efficiently. And so that's where a lot of my push comes from, is not that I think everything has to be, technology driven, but we got to figure out a way to make this stuff work for us instead of fighting against it.
Right.
And so that's some of the stuff, some of the stuff we're coming up with, like we said, the lodge admin, different stuff gives you an opportunity to kind of blend that. So it's not just like all at once, and then it'll make it more easy to digest. So
Totally, man. I mean, I'm I'm Gen X. I'm old, right? But I mean, I've been in IT for 30 years, over 30 years, I think. And the thing about it is that I have the thing I realize is that every Mason that's going to come after me that's younger,
right.
This is their world. What we're doing right here, the podcast.
Totally.
iWatches, man, phones, the whole thing.
Somebody might watch this podcast 30 years from now. Who knows? It's going to be out there, kind of
dude.
floating in the ether. Oh yeah.
You got Brother Brad's earbuds.
Right.
That's what I'll call them.
Yeah, and so since we're talking about technology, I want to just take a quick moment to pivot and talk about the app. If you're not on TX Mason app, please get on there. Okay, I understand it costs some money, right? The idea being behind this, again, this is another one of those compromise areas. This is what I kind of built my career on, is finding that happy medium where everybody can agree. But the last thing anybody wanted was us to raise per capita to pay for an app, right? So what we did is, now we charge for the app. So if you want to take advantage of the technology, if you want to be able to search the law book and the monitor, right there on your iPhone,
love having it right there.
Amazing, man.
Absolutely. And even guys that now, some guys travel outside of really the network, and they get out into the weeds in the smaller lodges. We're working on different stuff that will make, like the law book and the monitor like stagnant in there, so that it's in your app. And so, if you go out there, you can still utilize it. You won't have everything. You won't have the proceedings going back to, 1835 or 1836, whatever, because you won't hopefully need it out there. Yep.
Can I show it? Can I show it? Anyway.
Absolutely. Does it show you there how many members you got?
It's there, man. It's there.
Does it show you?
My camera sucks, man. I'm sorry.
So anyway, we're pushing, I think 4,000 members is where we're getting close to, but we really look forward to a day when, like half the Masons embrace this thing, because that money will allow us to put more money back into technology, and that's really it does two things. It allows us to put more money back into technology. It also allows us to hopefully, and I cannot promise this, but I can promise you that I will fight against it at every point, to keep per capita flatlined, right? So, some people love the apron that we put out. Some people hate the apron, but bottom line is, a lot of that money that you pay, and if you go somewhere else, you're going to pay probably the similar price, but a lot of that money goes back to our Grand Lodge for projects. And one of the things that we've been able to do is stockpile money that will help offset, hopefully, that raising of per capita. Because again, looking at economies of scale, Grand Lodge, we have to operate, so we have to assess what we need, but we are trying to take as much burden off the lodges as we can. And so if we can keep that flat for another decade, I'm actively looking at, apron was part of my idea. App is part of my idea. I have other things that are coming up, and those are things that will help to bring money into your Grand Lodge, which will help us to not have to hopefully raise per capita. So those are things that, again, we're actively thinking about. In this position, I'm actively thinking about that consistently. So
that is awesome.
4,752 members.
Wow, we shot up. We were at 3,800, so we shot up almost 1,000 people like overnight, and that's great. Again, I think a lot of it's just promoting it, making sure people know about it, and we're trying to do that. But if you're out there watching this podcast, ask your Masons in your lodge, hey, who all has the app. We have actually talked about maybe at some point, throwing it into the vanguards. If we have a technical Grand Master, Chris, asking them to throw in the vanguard requirements. Like, how many members do you have on this? And if you have, over a certain number, you get a point, or you get a couple points, whatever it may be, because it helps us disseminate information. It helps make sure that our Masons are informed, and it puts money back in the coffers of Grand Lodge for more technology stuff.
Isn't
So
the 3 main officers supposed to have it anyway?
So yes, that was part of the deal, and I don't know where we ended up on that. I actually don't know that we do that. In Grandview, the top 3 officers and the secretary have access to the law book, because by law, by statute, we have to put that out. So that satisfies that law. But then we usually also send out either an update or a hard copy. So I would like to see at some point, again, if lodges wanted to do it, it's very simple. They could pay for the base plan for your top 3 officers and your secretary. We're talking like $50 a year. And, if you put that in the budget of your lodge, it makes it real easy. And then, your top 3 officers will always have it. So stuff to consider, things to think about. And we may look at that option, but we would have to build out some stuff in the app to make that happen. But it's a great idea. I know most of the time the district deputies, since 2021, I believe, the deputies have gotten free access to the app. So, because it's so helpful.
Oh, yeah, tremendously. It's the best bathroom reading I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're never without, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, all right. Well,
awesome.
I know we could keep going on for all night. I've enjoyed the heck out of this.
Yeah,
I'd like to do it again.
I'm happy to do it. And again, I'm going to see you guys in the morning, so it's kind of funny. I was actually, I can't tell that story. Never mind. I'm going to leave it where it's at. Certain things I can say, certain things I shouldn't say, so I'm just going to leave them alone. But I'll see you guys in the morning, and I look forward to it.
Great.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, anybody watching, like, subscribe. We do this every Friday evening usually. Sometimes we move it here or there, but we're going to try and do it once a week. We're going to interview Brother David Rogers in a couple of weeks.
One of my favorite Masons of the whole time.
We're going to talk about York Rite and all the aspects of that. So, and I'm not a York Rite guy, so I don't even know anything about it. So I'm interested to learn.
Well, I will say it's Brad's fault that I got into York Rite.
Hey, I'm a huge fan. I've been in it 17, 18 years now, whatever it is. Wow. And I'm a huge fan of the York Rite. I support all the, appendant bodies, but I do want to tell you this: whenever you interview David Rogers, hopefully he's not watching this, ask him if he's ever had someone randomly walk up to him and ask him if he was Moses, because it happened in Royce City last weekend. So we were having lunch, and a little kid walked up to him. "Are you Moses?" Anyway, you got to
see that.
That is awesome.
Awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank y'all for joining, and that's it, man. Y'all have a good evening.
Yep.
All right.
Bye, world.
We'll see you next week.
We'll sign off. See you guys.
See you, brother.